And welcome to another episode of the Best Three Podcast. I'm Alvin, that's Tori, and we're coming at you post Indian Wells. Congratulations, Aryna Sabalenka. Congratulations, Jannik Sinner. We're gonna get after both of those matches and a lot more than that. But first and foremost, TH, how you doing?
Alvin, I'm good. Good day of tennis. Great day to watch. Looked like it was a hot situation out
Whew.
there. All the temps out there, like 97 or give or take. It wasn't that hot here in Atlanta, as you know, but great tennis out there. They don't call the sunshine double for nothing, Alvin.
There's definitely plenty of sunshine available. And today we got some hot temperatures, which is definitely something we'll come to. I think played a major factor in both women's and men's finals. Like I said, Aryna Sabalenka defeated Elena Rybakina in the women's final up first.
Yep.
And then Jannik Sinner defeated Daniil Medvedev in the men's final that came right after. And this is going to be a little more of less of a, tournament recap. We don't really do a lot of that around here. We want to really get into some of the things that this tournament showed us
Right.
about not only where we currently are with the tour, but with these specific players. So I want to start with Aryna Sabalenka versus Elena Rybakina.
Yep.
On this podcast, going all the way back to WTA finals,
Mhm.
tour finals,
Yep.
and then in our end of year recap, not to mention the Grand Slam that she won I think it finished technically in February, we call it January.
Yep. Yep.
I know that I said, and I believed you agreed, that Elena Rybakina is one of the top two players in the world.
Period.
Now, on paper, come Monday morning, that will be a true statement.
Yep.
She will be ranked number 2 tomorrow
Yep.
morning. When we talk about the top two players in the world, and I look at, obviously on paper and in my own opinion, Aryna Sabalenka and Elena Rybakina are the best two players in the world.
Yep.
Impenetrable force, immovable
Movable
object.
Yep.
Before I start getting into why I love this, now I think we can officially call it a rivalry now. Why I love this rivalry and matchup so much. I want to get your perspective on not only what you're taking from where these two women are right now. Let's call it, they've played 6 times in the last 14 months or so,
Yep.
where they are now. But I also want to get into the standpoint of like true rivalries in which the players' game styles are very, very similar
Sure.
in history. But I'll let you take the first one first.
I think history is a great point, and I think that's the first place to start. When you first talk about rivalry in the women's
Mm-hmm.
game, I have to go back to Martina and Chris. Dare I say the best rivalry in tennis on the women's side for decades. I would even submit that that rivalry helped to start the actual tour itself. While there have been great players for many, 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 many years, that Martina Chris rivalry transcended generations. And there were 3 or 4 different acts slash epics, depending on how you want to
Sure.
talk about it in the span of time. I remember the early days when Martina still had dark hair, you know what I mean?
Fair.
And longer dark hair at that. I remember those with the days with the wooden rackets when Chris was still, running around, but when she was still just Chris Evert and had become Chris Evert Lloyd. I mean, so
Sure.
going back all that, and then the next era when Martina had the glasses and a little more of a fit physique and had the shorter blonde hair and was making she really tuned into the fitness side of things. And then the later years when they had even more more rivalry there toward the end of their career. Their rivalry, and even now, have their rivalry and has turned to friendship slash their both of them are dealing with some personal issues and illnesses and things that are and they have found that each of them, as many years they competed against one another, they've also even turned to one another as friends, as they're both battling some pretty heavy stuff with some cancers and whatnot. I say it to say, Alvin, that rivalry kept tennis alive. It kept tennis going amidst all the other players that were very good in their own right. You always knew that you measured them against those two, right? I look at the Borg McEnroe rivalry as a comparison. And I felt that Borg actually did Mac a disservice by, in a sense, quitting so abruptly. So I think How much better could Mac have gotten had it continued to be pushed by Borg? Now, we'll never know, but then I go back to Pete and Andre, right? I go back to all of the I mean, Serena had about 4 or 5 rivals, you know what I mean, between, for her 20 years. And so I wanna come back to this, but I wanna set the table with those icons of what the rivalry does for the game from a marketing standpoint, from a who's going to win this iteration standpoint, to leave you on the edge of your seat to see what that next player does as a result of the rivalry. I don't have to talk about Fed and Nadal. We watched it for the last 20 years as it well, 19, that it kept going. And I have to tell you, Alvin, they also carried tennis along with them. So I want to mention that part first because I feel like you have to really appreciate what a rivalry is, and
Well,
you're talking about the top of the game to really get the sense of what we're talking about, and then you can kinda talk to rivalry now that these 2 very, very unbelievable, phenomenal players have now given us a new version of it with 2026, I'm gonna say, uh, terms, so to speak.
I
What
think
were you
it's
gonna say?
I think it's important to kind of like look at like how the evolution of tennis has really impacted what an actual rivalry is, right? Those other players that
And
you
what is
yeah, those other players had so much more time because they all hit their peaks, not peaks. They all hit the top of the game so much earlier in their careers and were
Sure.
able to sustain, right? You're talking about 2 players. Elena Rybakina has had some health issues, some off-court issues, right? She wins
Hurricane
Wimbledon.
injuries. Right.
She finals Australian Open the very next year, and then she's kinda not necessarily been in the lurch, but she's kinda been in the lurch as far as a contender for slams regularly, at the same time while Aryna was spending that time closing the gap between her and Iga, and
Yep.
then usurping Iga, and then, fending off kind of different players who
Yep.
all have very different game styles. And like, so when we're talking about a rivalry, I think this one doesn't hold a candle to the rest of those. And I don't think that it necessarily has to, and necessarily for the sake of this conversation, but it's going to have to do a lot more work to get to, to that truly rarefied air of a generational rivalry. It's quite possible and quite likely that it does not.
I would push back and say that it does, and that's why I wanted to go back history-wise and to set this. There were great players back when Borg and Mac were playing. They became the rivalry. Why? Because on any given day, they had the sauce that could do the damage to that player, and that player knew it. What I look for in a rivalry, Alvin, is a player that the other opponent knows has their number. And if they're playing great, not a player that can beat you. Anybody can beat you.
Anyone can beat you.
The player that you know has your number. The player that you know you have the hardest time with. The player that you look at in the draw and you're like, oh God.
Would it be easy to wrap that up and say, even on my best day, I'm not absolutely sure that I'm going to win.
That I'm gonna win this match. And that to me, and if you just happen to be at the place in the game where you are 1 or 2, and that player is 2 or 1, and you know you're gonna meet each other on match 6 or 7 on the tour, on that and all the big ones coming up, where you almost cheer for the opponent for knocking out your opponent. You're like, "Yes." Remind me to buy her a purse, because she helped me out. I did not want to play her again this week. I wasn't feeling my best this week. Those are rivalries, and I feel like there are rivals, that you have in sports all the time. We're gonna call it conference rivals and that rivals that you've had for decades because of where you are, Michigan, Ohio State. Those type of rivalries that'll always span the test of time. And then in tennis, it's very personal. It's very specific and there can only be one number one and one number two. And so when those one and two come together, you know, this was also, if I'm not mistaken, what the comments was talking about, this was the third time that Arena's been in the finals, and she's not won Indian Wells, ironically,
That was her
right?
first
And
time
so
winning. Yep.
with all the slams up to this point, you know, Rybakina has won Indian Wells, right? And hadn't had the same good fortune in a lot of the slams up to this point, up until this, to this past year. So I feel like what we're looking into this whole thing. We're looking into this whole. Now you're starting to really see. So, and then the two of these meet, right? So that's why I think this is going to be a bit of a rivalry. I think Rybakina is coming back, is back with in full force, and I think that Sabalenka, while she's been defining her career, and she's been, in a sense, edging out Swiatek and edging out and kind of being more consistent than the Golfs and the, I guess we're going to put in there, three or four other top players, including Anisimova, including Coco Golf, including, I'm going to put one more in there. I'll put Pagula and maybe one or two others that are trying to get to that same rarefied air. These two have now, and Rebecca has in a sense played a little bit of catch up. They are now positioning themselves as the new one and two. All roads go through us now on the tour. And I think that's where I'm getting at. That's why this is the rivalry right now. How long it stays there, well, always depends on everybody else. But it will come through them. It'll be on their terms how long they stay. And it looks like right now they'll be there for a little while.
You know what's wild? Iga and Aryna finished the year 1-2. They played one time last year.
Yeah.
Like one time. And
Was
I
it was
think
that, was that French semi?
that was the Roland Garros semi, right? So
Yeah.
like, which is, that was we talked about that match.
Yeah,
Some
good match.
people knocked the match a little bit, but I love that match. I
That was good.
love that. That was one of the top 5 matches I watched on the women's side last year.
Top three for me.
But as far as a rivalry goes, like they were 1-2 and met twice.
Right.
That just tells me, okay, they're not meeting in finals. That's where 1-2 would normally meet.
Yep.
Aryna made her fair share of finals last year. She finaled 3 of the 4 Grand
Iga
Slams.
made one and beat Amanda 0-0.
Right.
But unfortunately, the way the numbers, as we talk about often, numerically, it didn't work out that way for them both. And Coco had other plans, both for Iga and for
Yep.
for Aryna and the French. Well, sorry, and the French with obviously with Aryna. But I also feel like it's something that we haven't seen that same level of staying power at the top from a Coco, from an Iga, from an Amanda, from others. And again, does that mean they're not great players? Are you kidding me? These players are the absolute best of the best. But now you're talking about, can we continue to stay at the top of the heap? And that's a whole nother level of greatness, to be able to do it time in and time out. You know, some would even say, by comparison, that Sinner stubbed his toe a little bit against one of the all-time greats in
Right.
Australia. So that's how fine a line it is when 24 Grand Slam champ, edges you out in a long match and you stub your toe not to get to that latest edition of your rivalry. So that's how tough this whole thing is. And that's what I'm saying. It's so hard to get there, but we've now seen the finals of the women's tour final, and we've now seen the finals of the
Australian Open.
Australian Open, and now we're seeing the finals of Indian Wells. It's starting to shape up like a rivalry album because they are continuing to move. All rivalry questions go through us, and I think
Right.
that's what we're starting to see.
And they met 4 times last year, but I think I'm going to kind of even double back on my comment about Iga and Aryna only meeting once last year. If you're 1-2, that means the only time you are going to play each other is in the finals.
In the finals.
And it's really hard to do that when 1 through 8 in the world is capable of reaching a Grand Slam final.
100%.
I think it probably speaks more to the parity within the top of the women's game right now.
Some who've done so. You know what I mean? You've got
exactly
4 different Grand Slam champs, over the last 2 years in that, or has been, including Madison, in that top 8. So that's what, but in my opinion, that's what raises the specter of this rivalry, because amidst those same players, they are starting to outpace the others. And I think that's why I'm mentioning, I think this one's a little different and has staying power, because it's been fairly consistent and those players haven't gotten worse. They've these two have raised their game. And that's not to say the other that it won't be upset. It's not to say that one of them couldn't go out early in a round and the French, but what I will say is it's starting to shape up like a pretty good rivalry. And, for what I see right now, Alvin, these two are starting to really take tennis to another level on the women's side of things. And the parity remains, which is what makes this all the more remarkable.
Yeah, let's get into that matchup a little bit, right? And I think one of the more
Yeah.
interesting things about this particular rivalry, like rivalries are often built on, there's a little bit of difference between the players, right? I think a really easy example of this one is Fed and Nadal, right? One
Right.
is a very smooth righty, picture perfect. The other one's a muscular lefty. They play very different styles. They are very different off court, on court. So many things different about them, but those differences made for very, very interesting tennis matchups, right? Battles, lots of tension there.
A
With
lot of contrast
a
to
lot
your
of
point.
contrast. Yes,
Sure. Sure.
you would like some contrast in your rivalries. I think we're starting to see that with Jannik and Carlos. Look, we made it 15 minutes in the podcast, didn't mention Carlos Alcaraz until now. Perfect. That's for some of you out there. So but those two, right? They're both extremely dominant. They obviously hit the ball very hard, but they do it in very different ways, very
Yep.
different demeanors. Contrast again.
Yep.
I think on the tennis court, on the surface, these women do the same thing.
Sure.
Elena's first serve is the best in the women's game. I'd say number 2 is probably Aryna Sabalenka,
A
right?
close second, I might add.
A close second. Both fantastic. I mean, power in spades, right?
Yep.
Their demeanors are very different on the court.
Sure.
You've got one
Fire
wears her
enough.
exactly, one wears her heart on her sleeve, the other one has got ice in the veins, right?
Yes.
Winner, I couldn't tell if Elena's Rybakina had won or lost that match afterwards.
Yeah.
It didn't look very different than any other handshake that she's had. Just like, good match.
Yeah.
That's it. But when you start to dig into it a little bit, right? What are some of the nuanced differences that you see with your coach's eye? And I want to start with Ms. Rybakina first. What does she do that puts pressure on Aryna Sabalenka to a point where it doesn't allow her to do what she wants to do?
Aryna likes to take away your time first and your court second.
What does that mean?
And Elena likes to do the opposite. And I know it sounds simple, but
Break it down.
I'll break it down. When I am a power player, pace takes away your time. You have the ability to take it early, but if I hit another big ball, I now run you, which she does all the time. And now you have to really play a pretty good on the rise ball and cover it well to not lose time. I think of it in terms of increments of seconds. Okay. You and I are playing. I'm Aryna, you're Rybakina. I run you out wide. Okay. Big serve. Whether I go behind you, in front of you, it doesn't matter. I'm moving you all the same. Okay. I'm taking it early. I may only take a quarter of a second from you. Your ball comes back just as big, but I'm meeting the ball early. My next ball, because all you can do is hit the same ball back to me and counter. If I do the same thing again, I take away another quarter of a second. Now I'm half a second ahead. If I can deliver the goods one more time, this is where the compound interest of pace and tactics hit. Quarter of a second, full second. Because once I take you on the next one, you have to loop, slice, can open, something to buy the time back. You just simply can't continue to counter, right, the pace or the time I'm taking away.
Let's clarify time, because I had this conversation with other people before and after we've had this conversation.
Yeah.
As I interpret it, when you say losing time,
Yep.
I interpret that as a player, I want to be back to the point of recovery that I want to be at and on balance by the time you hit the next shot. So if you pull me out wide on the outside, so I'm left-handed, I hit that ball. If I hit it too hard, I can't get to a recovery point and be split step on balance by the time you hit that backhand. And if I'm not, I've left a lot of court open, so I can choose to either not fully recover.
Yep.
I can choose to fully recover and not be on balance to
Yep.
take away that down the line. And then either way, now I'm off balance. Now my cross court's a little more open. So being
Or
on time,
hit up to buy time, but give you
right?
the next aggressive shot.
Exactly. So that's what we mean by managing time. Always, if you have time, you are in control of your body when your opponent hits the next shot.
100%. And I'll even go make it even simpler. Let's use time itself as our increment and as our, if you want to call it, our unit of measure. 1 second, let's just call it a second. Okay, full, one Mississippi. Okay, ball hit, ball returns, 1 second each. We're both tagging the ball pretty good. That's a pretty good pace. That's a very high level pace. You're talking upwards, upper 80s, low 90s, maybe potentially a little faster depending on who you are. But ball hit, ball return, ball hit again. Boom, stop the shot clock. That's 2 seconds total. If I move up and hit that ball just a tad bit sooner, just a tad bit earlier, I'm going to use a quarter of a second as a level of measure. I have now upped the ante. I have taken away a quarter of a second for you to return said ball, for you to recover from said ball, for you to decide where you're going to hit said ball. And I feel like I can cover most of the court if I do so, depending on what you hit back. I know you may counter aggressively, hit one in the corner, hit one on line, loop, slice, doesn't matter. I am taking the risk and I'm going to do this because I feel like I'm pretty good at it. And Sabalenka is pretty good at it. The second ball is where the rubber meets the road because now I've got to do it a couple of times. Rebecca makes you do it 4 times, by the way. But let's say that happens. She can delay, I'm going to say in some ways, the inevitable if Aryna hits the ball just right. Because now she can take that second cut, third cut, fourth cut. All she's doing is continuing to take away increments of the second without giving you much time back. Now, here's where Rybakina has the ability to flip the script. She can hit the ball back so big, so deep, that the on-the-rise ball that you're looking to hit is at your feet. And now you have to bump, scoop, or deflect, not counter, not strike, not attack, but defend in a sense because she can hit the ball so big back to you down the middle that your on-the-rise ball actually floats back. And so the quarter of a second you took might take you a second and a quarter back to me, which buys her the time back. What Sabalenka does very well when she's on the run, she will counter punish. She will hit you in a spot that you don't necessarily want to be in. She has a very good slice on both sides. And you saw the slide of the tournament. Players are blocking that return just deep enough, knowing that most aren't comfortable coming forward and taking it out of the air, to be able to rip the next ball off the first strike. And that's a very, very tactically smart thing to do because how many girls are going to come forward and serve and volley? None, right? So it's actually a pretty smart tactic. But you also leave the door open for the person to counter punish, so that quarter of a second they take, you rip that ball back deep. If they bump, roll, or slice and scoop that ball back, it's probably sitting up in the middle of the court. And you're going back from bump return in the corner, big, huge back hit on the run, to a step-up forehand on ball 3. Now, there's been some steps in that rally, but you are now back to 0. And that's the key I want to talk about, Alvin, 0. Remember, 1 second there, 1 second back. The time difference is 0.
Neutral.
I take a quarter of a second away, boom. The time difference is on your side. I have to return it back as big, as clean, as deep, or I am a quarter of a second back. If I'm a quarter second back and that next bullet comes in the corner, boom, I'm a half a second back. And that's when you start seeing time taken away. As the time keeps getting taken away, Aryna is very good at coming forward. She's very good at managing, going behind you, going in front of you. It's a big point. She loves using it. And she will eventually come forward on you through a barrage of taking your time away, and then she takes away your court. Very classic, very, very good tennis. She's just the better 2026 version of Serena, Davenport, Jennifer Capriati, all the big hitters who have come before. Sellis, she is that player in 2026 form. On the flip side, what does Rybakina do? Her cross court is so cross, she takes court from you first. And now she puts you in a spot where you got to decide, if I don't pick right, I'm out of time. I can get this ball, but I got no good options.
So
And
there's
she takes away your court first, and as a result, makes you go for poor choices while she's stepping in on the next ball. And she's the opposite. Seems similar because they both have ball big, but Rybakina will take you cross 3 times more than you thought she would go cross because you gotta defend the line, and she'll go cross one more time, and Yankee gets a little bit wider. And the wider you go, Alvin, the wider you go, the more court you got to cover. And there's her back in it just when you think, she's got to go line. I'm going to cheat line because I got to cheat. At this point, I'm out of court. She goes cross one more time. And you're like, there's some shots where you're busy leaning line. She's going back cross on a step in forehand. And you're like, how did I not cover that? Well, you're not covering it because she has both options. And that's where I feel this is just a small, just a very small difference in the game. But Rybakina's ball is so good. The cross court will beat down the line all day long. That's just tennis. That's just tennis geometry. And Rybakina does that better than anybody. And she does it
so
all, serve
s-
and the return.
so one thing I guess for those listening or watching, I think of the mental picture. Maybe one day we'll put these in the podcast. I don't know.
Yeah.
Think of the mental picture of Aryna Sabalenka hitting ground strokes from the doubles alley.
Yep.
You don't see that often. You see it a lot when she's playing against Rybakina. And
Has to.
that is the width that Elena can create that with, and it's not it's not like she's using a lot of spin to create that angle. She is just using leverage and an extremely firm left hand. Like she sends that thing on a rope
Yep.
crossing the single sideline. And that is a very unique spot that Aryna Sabalenka doesn't normally have to play from.
Right.
And I think that's why you often see, almost going back to your time comment, right?
Right.
When you are slowly taking time, 10th of a second here, 10th of a second here, cumulative, now they're a quarter second behind. When they do hit that winner, you're like, oh, that shot looks so safe. It's like, because they actually earned that winner 3 shots ago.
3 shots
And
ago.
by the time they pull it
Foolishly.
line,
Right.
by the time they pull it line, you were nowhere, you're not even close to it. They don't have, the risk level is extremely low for them. And they've got all day to send it 3 feet from the sideline and 4 feet from the baseline, and you
That's
can't
right.
touch it.
She actually went line more today, Rebecca, than I've seen her in times past. She went big cross more often early, like she always does, with some bigger shots on like that. Down balls you thought she'd have gone line on. There was about 5 or 6 just almost winners that you're like, how does she not go for that ball? Well, because she's leaning. You're leaning one way or the other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like Steph Curry coming down on a 3-on-2. You know what I mean? Who do you cover? You know what
Right.
I mean? He can stop and pop and drill you for 3 and go past you and throw the alley oop. You don't know what to cover because he's that good. Same thing here. And I feel like that's one of the things that when you're watching Rybakina play, one of the beauties of her game is that she creates that extra time. Her ball rarely is purposeless and cross court. She's getting you sideline cross. Now you got to make a decision. Do I go bigger? Do I roll? Do I go line? She automatically puts you in a tough spot because if you go line, she has a chance to go back cross bigger, and that's what runs you. If you go back cross, you're safe, but she can go line or she can go back wider cross, and now you're in a tough situation. So what do? You have to do different things. And what I thought Aryna did great today, she kept changing it up. She drilled her enough line to keep her honest. She drilled her back deep middle enough times to make sure she didn't have the right ball. And then she took her back big cross, countered that same ball, and then took the punishment, which is 3 balls on the run, to get back to the ball that she wanted. And I really feel that that little bit of gut check, is really what won her the match. She was willing to go those long ones, that long exchange where she's going to go back cross, knowing that she has to cover both options, but she's going to do it 3 more shots to prove to Elena, I will go the distance with you. You're not going to bully me into going for that dumb down the line that I know you're looking for to run me 3 more shots. I'm going to go back cross with you because I know that's what you want me to do. And I'm going to go cross and you're going to run me and I'm okay with that. because I'm in good enough shape and I'm fast enough and I'm as tall as you are that I'm going to do the distance that most players won't.
So that's the thing that is like, okay, and this is, I'm really, really glad you said that, because when you looked at the last 3 matches that Rybakina played in this tournament, right? JPEG in the quarters,
Yep.
she played Svitolina in the semis, and then she played Rybakina in the final. The first 2 sets against Pegula and Svitolina were very similar. The second 2 sets were very similar. Even today, you saw some similarities starting to
Yep.
creep in the Sabalenka match, right? When
Yep.
Rybakina comes out on fire, it's a lot to deal with.
Man.
It is a lot to deal with, right? And so you have these. I think you call it, you term the term water bugs, right? I mean, JPEG's not really a water bug, but Rybakina turns her into one. You just see a lot of running. You're just running, right? Her and Svitolina, I mean, JPEG and Svitolina both were just running, holding on for dear life until eventually some fatigue starts to set in, right?
Yep.
Middle of the second set. Rybakina starts missing, serve percentage drops a little bit, right? And now you have a chance
Yep.
to start getting in the match, right?
Yep.
And that the same thing happened in the quarters that happened in the semis, right? You had a
Yep.
chance to get in the match. But then Rybakina was able to shut the door, right? Because at the end of the match, it's hard to close out sets when you don't have the firepower,
Exactly.
right? Because Rybakina has that thing that most of the other women do not have, is what I like to call a shut the door first serve. Like,
Right.
when I need one, I can hit one that you can't hit back.
The closer.
The closer, yes, the old John Rocker, if you will, right? From those of us old enough from Atlanta, if you know, you know the old John Rocker. So that is what separates these 2 women from I think the rest of the field, right? And you saw that separation in the quarters and the semis. Even when Rebecca got a little shaky, she was able to close the door, right?
Yep.
In this match today, Aryna has gotten fit enough and fast enough to do that.
That's right.
Wait for the dip,
That's
and
right.
then bring her own rocker, right? Now she's like, okay, if I break you, I can also then serve out and then continue to put pressure on you. Step up on second serve returns. Like, you hit a 92-mile-an-hour kicker out wide on the second serve. I'm big enough that if I step in, my hands are fast enough, my strike zone's big enough that I can still take it.
That's
I can
right.
still take it, where those other women cannot.
Because Rebecca is tired too.
Right. Exactly. It happens to everyone.
Who's more tired and who's going for more of a steadier, more of a safer option. But Rebecca is still tired, and she has that same level of looks very placid, looks very stoic, but under all that, disguise, she's still dying out there like you are. It's still 97 degrees. It's still hot as Hades, and you are still dealing with the stress of all of it because she's good, but she's still human, as we all are. And she will take that dip physically. And I think that's one of the things that Sabalenka, I was impressed that Sabalenka put her own fitness into that situation to allow herself to go the distance, to just get her a little bit tired, a few more second serves, a little less pop on the ball. But again, you got to be, that's a lot to wager. It's a lot to wager. If you haven't put in the work, Alvin, that's not a strategy you can employ over time. That's a strategy you can only do if you really have been putting in the work and feel that confident with your fitness to be able to put that up there as one of your weapons, is to say, as collateral. I will match you this and I will raise you this because
Right.
I'm in good shape to do this. And I can still have the goods on my first serve because I have legs left because I'm in that good of shape. And
I'm going to
that's
come
what
back.
I happened today.
I want to come back to that one. They also say, like, we don't rise to the occasion. We fall to our level of preparation, right?
All the
And
level of effort our systems. Exactly.
when you build that base of fitness, like match 6, and it's 95 degrees in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the air. That's clock temp, right? Not on court temp. It's bacon. We're in the back end of the third set, right? You got week and a half of matches on your legs. You got 2 hours on your legs here. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to point to 5-all third set, right? That 12-minute long service game, or I don't know how you look at it. There were so many opportunities, I think, probably for both players, right? Rybakina had Aryna had a look at some second serves on the ad side there on break points. there were also some really, really good second serves by Elena Rybakina. Like, I mean, being down repeated break point, second serve to the number one player in the world, and still having the gall to crank up. Okay, maybe 91's not going to get it done. Let's go 95. Let's go 95, kick her to the body. Like, that's gross. That's gross. No, you're not going to pull one on me, line, because I'm going right at you. Pull that. But then after that game, I thought even leading up to that point, right when Aryna got the break in the third, and she was up break. I was texting Matt and Dusef, and I'm like, what are the chances that Aryna just gets to a point where she serves this thing out at 5, like at up a break, serves this thing out like it's men's 90s tennis, and all of us were like, no chance. It's not. We're not gonna get to that point. And naturally, there was the break, and then that big hold at 5-all.
Was that game?
That was the 5-all game, yeah. But then again, you see Elena is tired during that game. Aryna's tired too. What did Aryna step up and do the very next game? She held serve. She held serve. Like, she held serve. Like, she held serve. And,
I might add.
Yeah, and the difference didn't come until the very last, like the very end of that tiebreaker, when Rybakina's up a break, mini break, and the breaker trying to serve did not make a first serve on either point. Aryna gets the mini break back, 6-5. What did she do? Makes first serve. That's legs, baby. That's all legs. And when we talk about it, comes down to literally legs and the ability to step up to the line and make a first serve at 2 hours and 20 minutes at the back end of a slugfest. Like, that's how slim of margins we're talking about. So, I mean, hats off to.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
And I think we'll see a lot more of that, because
I hope so.
I feel like this was a gut check loss for Elena, and this was a gut check win for Aryna.
You think so? You think?
100%.
I feel like I took nothing from that match except for, man, women's tennis is awesome right now, and it's so cool that we get to see these two heavyweights go after it.
And it's that too. But remember, she hasn't beaten her recently.
Yeah.
And she's been on the snide for doing it, and she wanted this match. Now she has the belief that she can beat her. Now you're going to see some more tactical things coming in, because now you have that confidence to say, okay, I've beaten you before. And if I have to do that again, I will. But I can also do it differently. Now that I believe, now that I've done it recently, I know I can do it again. And now you're going to start seeing the tactical matchups. And Alvin, that's what makes a rivalry. I've beaten you one way. Guess what's going to happen? Elena's going to get back in better shape, so it doesn't happen again. And now she's going to have to find another way to beat her. Elena's going to come back and beat her another way. Elena's going to start coming forward on those block returns. And now you've got to find another way. And that's what makes a great rivalry. It doesn't ever stop. The iterations are all a bit different. And that's what you look forward to in these matches. What will you do next? What will I force you to do? Because I showed you that what you gave me last wasn't good enough. And now what will happen? Alvin, what's going to happen now? Elena's going to get in better shape, stronger legs. How many times we see her leaning over a racket, holding her knees? She was gassed, and Aryna was not. And I feel like, not to say she wasn't tired or winded. Of course she was. It was heck of a match. But I say it to say, now what happens when Elena gets stronger, gets a little more physically fit? Now she's going to come back another way. And now Aryna's got to have another way to find a way to beat her. That's what makes a great rivalry, is when the two push each other to keep getting better. And that's what I look forward to out of these two, and the women's game as a whole. But I feel like for those two in particular, that's why I'm calling it the rivalry right now, because the two of them have shown, when they're playing their best tennis, you can't beat us. You know what I mean? We're playing our best tennis. And now each of us have been able to, King Kong Godzilla, been able to hurt the other one, to almost to a draw in many cases. So where the others are very good, Iga, Coco, Amanda, all of them are. I mean, you could keep going down the list. We haven't forgotten about Mira. We haven't forgotten about, who's my other top 5 player there. That's
JPEG.
JPEG for sure. But I'm thinking of one more that I feel like I'm always forgetting giving her props. God, I just had her name a second ago. And by the way, Svitolina has been on fire since Australia, by the way. I can't forget
She's
her
max. She's maxing. Like talk
She's
about like
absolutely playing some of the best ball of her career right now. You know what I mean?
all
So
you want is somebody to play to the top. All I want is for someone to play to the top of their potential. She is straight maxing right now, like
oh, one
in
thousand
the
percent.
best way.
Just and I'm so proud of her and having some of her best tennis right now. I just say it to say these other players are still playing some darn good tennis. I mean, darn good tennis. And I feel like we're at a point now where, but these two are starting to separate. They're starting to separate themselves just a little bit out, just enough to say, yeah, we got
It's
this.
the separation that I push back on because here's what I am not necessarily afraid of, but this is just math. If they're ranked 1 and 2
Mhm.
and you add in the parity in the women's game,
Yeah,
that just reduces the opportunities for them to actually play each other. They can only meet in the finals, right? So the
agreed.
chances of
Agreed.
them both getting there in the tournaments that they're all going to be participating in, it's just like, I mean, Rybakina, it's a coin toss if she loses to like Mboko, right? Because
Sure.
Mboko plays her well.
Yes.
And that's just that is a bit of a matchup problem.
Yeah.
Mboko is the hybrid of like has
Yeah.
like arena kind of firepower, but like water bug like court coverage.
Phenomenal
It's
speed.
it's such a really, really bad matchup for Elena because she will make enough balls long enough to get to that dip that
That's
Elena
right.
usually has around the mid-second set, and then has the firepower to actually then push through. So
I
I
agree.
I
And
think that's
she gave Amanda all she could handle. You know what I mean? In that upset win against her, I don't disagree. But those are bad matchups. I'm not sure if they are. Is that to say that the road won't be pleasant? It'll be a little bumpy 1,000%. I'm not saying that the road won't be. What I'm saying is I feel like they are starting to separate, and I hope I'm wrong. But I would look forward to the next iteration as they are now 1 and 2. You're gonna have to bring your best game, and that's all I'm getting at. And I'm not saying that the rest have been relegated. What I'm saying is I feel these two are starting to just hit a gear that most haven't, and I feel like it's something that's really starting to really be really fun to watch. And I feel like the true champions will continue to make adjustments and try to compete at that level. And I say that for the men's game and the women's game. It's only going to keep getting a little bit tougher. And buddy, you better hit the gym. You better hit the gym, and you better be willing to take that risk with that shot because you know you're gonna have to take it from somebody. They're not gonna give it to you.
absolutely. I think that's a really good place to transition
Yeah,
over to the men's side,
yeah.
where we're usually, I oftentimes we are looking forward to a potential Jannik Sinner versus Carlo Alcaraz matchup, and I am
Never a bad afternoon of tennis.
I'm as yeah, exactly. I'm as guilty as anyone, right? I watch a lot of these matches through the lens of like, oh, can we preserve that? Can we get another chapter? And like just like I mentioned about the women's side, it takes a lot of hard work and a little bit of good fortune as well for 1 and 2 to end up in the finals, right? We did not get that on the men's side, and I think it's probably a good thing
Yeah,
because what we did get is the resurgence of one Daniil
good
Medvedev.
deal.
So, but before we get into that, let's
Right.
give Jannik Sinner his due credit, right?
Yeah,
He's back to his winning ways.
yeah,
Um, a couple tournaments that he played and did not win. Okay, now he's back into the finals. Didn't participate in any balls last year. He's in this year. He wins it 7-6, 7-6 against Daniil Medvedev in the final. It's a lot of this is same old Yannick, in that he continues to put a ton of pressure
yeah,
on you as an opponent. He really like obviously there's the pace, there's the depth, right? There's this his serve has become it's a
yeah.
legitimate weapon, but I think what I've seen from him is the culmination of being at the top of the game for the last 2 years is same thing I saw in the match against Fonseca showed up in the two tiebreakers today. When the chips are down, he's ready to roll.
Right.
He's not gonna blink. He's not
Right.
gonna blink. He's gonna put himself in a position. He got down 4-0 in the second set tiebreaker,
Yeah.
and Daniil got no more points, right?
Yeah.
And he won that tiebreaker going away the same way he won the second set tiebreaker going away against Fonseca, ripping returns.
Yeah.
Um,
Being more aggressive than I've seen him in those moments to date. And I have to even go back to the semi against Zverev. He showed that he was willing to take more risks, take more time away, come forward, and shorten points. He wasn't gonna just run down 4 or 5 balls before he started his offense. I agree with you, and I even told you that when we talked about this Indian Wells, I was impressed with how he beat Yao. It wasn't that he beat Fonseca. He beat him being more aggressive. He beat him. He didn't let him lose. He beat him. And even when it went to tiebreakers, and Yao played great. It was just a matter of I felt like he was sending a message that I'm getting more aggressive for my return to the top of the game. And because I know I'm fast enough, but I also know at 97 degrees, I know I have a tendency to wilt out here and let me start to finish these things off. I have the ability to. I've been a counterer and now a counter punisher, and I'm fast, and I know I've got decent fitness, but I also know once a tournament, I've been vulnerable. My points are too long. My threshold, I'm taking a death of 1,000 cuts here. So let me be able to show that I can step up and beat someone, not just let them lose, grind them out, and then attack. Let me attack first and show that I can do that part as well. And that's what I think we saw. And I think that was really what helped him. And hats off to Medi for a great tournament. Hats off to Yannick even more so for having a better tournament. And I really feel like Daniil, who's been on the schneid a little bit, right? I mean, we were just talking about, one learner 10 who has his number, who also had a
Yeah.
but it felt like Daniil was just starting to kind of exit stage left a little bit there, in my opinion, and he really showed the heart of a champion and the Grand Slam champ that he is to continue to be relevant. And while I still feel like I had wished he had taken that volley in that time with Calvin, I cried when he let it go. I'm like,
So,
no, don't let it go. Take
l-
that volley. And he let it go and it was in. He was hitting himself for me, so I didn't have to. But I was just, I saw the wind go out of the sails when he let that ball go. But it's that close, Alvin. It's that fine of margin of the woulda, coulda, shouldas that comes down to a match like that.
yeah, I mean, there's probably two things here that I kind of want to dig into. Well, one lightly touch on, the other one actually dig into. The match, Sinner's match against Zverev.
Mhm.
I mean, Courier was on the call. Courier's the best.
I like her.
He's the best. Like, he's just the best. He sees things and he can communicate those things in
Yep,
a way that is consumable for a wide range of
sure.
tennis fans, right? His comments about Alexander Zverev were so poignant. Like, I'll break it down and say Sinner makes Zverev kind of crazy. Like, he forces him to try things that he is not used to doing. Like,
Sure.
Alexander wants to back up. He wants to there's a pace at which he wants to play.
Right.
He was trying to redline from ball one, like trying to throw a Porsche engine inside of a Honda Civic. Like, it's just
Sure.
like you can't play at that tempo.
Yep.
But Yannick forced him. It made him feel like he had to play at that
Yep.
tempo. Like,
Sure.
Alex couldn't even get himself into that match, and that's a very like
He's a
some
he's a rhythm player, isn't he? He likes
he,
he likes getting a rhythm to before he takes the ball that he feels like he wants to take, and you're not gonna get that rhythm if Yannick doesn't want to give it to you.
and if you're in a rhythm, guess who else is in a rhythm?
Right.
Yannick's in a rhythm, and that's a problem for you who is
Right.
in rhythm. You're in rhythm, but you're not in control.
Right.
That's
No,
the
yeah.
that's the issue
Just
there.
not being in rhythm for 2 shots before you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's a whole different song. You're in the intro, and really
Right.
the drop's about to
He's
happen.
the drop's about to happen, exactly.
Exactly. But then the Medvedev side of things, I found myself watching this match the same way I watched the Alcaraz match. I feeling so good about where Daniil Medvedev is right now, and you
Yeah.
kind of saw him turn the corner. I want to say, you know, right after the U.S. Open, he ends up winning an event. Kind of starts a little bit a false start here and there in the indoor season, but then comes into the new year, wins the warm up event in Australian Open, comes to Australian Open, plays against Leonard Tien, and it's just sometimes it's just a bad day for him. But there are some little things that are starting to pop up in Daniil Medvedev's game that are taking the best versions of like 2022, 2023 Daniil,
Right.
and let's say 2021, 2022 Daniil, and marrying it with having to like how a player evolves, right? He used to have a really big serve. His
Yeah.
serve, I think he had a sports hernia or something like that, like in 2024, which impacted his kind of serve mechanics. It might have been
That'll
2023,
do
but
it.
yeah. But it seems to have worked out. He seems to have worked around it because he was serving incredibly well this week.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
being able to confidently and comfortably hold
Yeah.
service games is a big deal. He got broken one time. Like Carlos broke him one time in the semi. That's it. One time.
Right.
It's a pretty big deal, right?
Yep.
That is a player serving and playing at a very, very high level.
Yep.
Um, we have to take into account, like, and this is something that we can, between the big three, right, and the new two,
Hmm.
someone else did win a Grand Slam and was number one in the world.
Hmm.
Daniil Medvedev. Like,
Hmm.
he's final 3 Grand Slams in his career outside of the one that he won, right? He's
Thank
won
you.
23 tournaments. We're talking about a walking Hall of Famer right here.
Right. That's correct.
So when he comes onto the court and plays against your Alcarazes
And
and yours,
in level 1000s, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
and
Of
like,
course, I agree. Yeah.
when he comes against a Carlos Alcaraz or a Jannik Sinner, he has something that maybe only one other player in the world has.
Right.
It's like, I don't care. I
Right.
can beat these guys. I
Right.
have beaten these guys.
Right.
And if you beat me, it's not because you punked me when we walked on the court. It's because you played better than me today.
Sure.
But on my best day, I'm a problem for you. And
100%.
and what I noticed in the match against Carlos, Daniil doing the best version of the thing that bothers Carlos,
Mhm.
and I think Novak did a really good job of it in the Australian Open 2025,
Right.
forcing Carlos to hit up.
Yep.
Take
And beat him with the backhand.
right. So walk me. So I'm not even gonna waste time walking through that kind of like that progression, but like, why don't you explain what forcing a player like Carlos Alcaraz to hit up does, and almost to a point of neutralizing him to the best of one's ability.
I talk often about rock, paper, scissors. I want to speak to ball trajectory. I want to speak to what Carlos likes to do.
Mhm.
Daniil hits the flattest ball, I think, on the tour. The ball is low. The ball is big. The ball is just, it's darn near knuckleball. There's not even much topspin on it. Um, he just nails the ball. His take back is high, his ball comes through level, and it clears the net by maybe a foot, and it lands 2 to 5 feet from the baseline and it penetrates. As a player, Carlos prides himself on variety. Variety works only when it works. If you have to hit up off the drive, you meet with another drive. The harder you hit, the driver or the person more comfortable driving, which in this case is Daniil, hurts you because he can do it more times than you can. How many times do we see Carlos having to slice the backhand?
Yeah. Yep.
With the backhand slice, while it adds time, Daniil never took the bait and went back to Carlos's forehand, which is what
Nope.
Carlos wanted him to do. He roped it back cross court again. I feel, and it's a little different because I want to take a little bit of a tangent here and say, I don't think that Carlos tactically played him smart or took him serious enough in that match that he was a true threat. I think Carlos always feels like I'm athletic enough and I make shots enough that I'm never out of this match. He had an on the run passing shot, Alvin, that he was beyond the scoreboard on a smack forehand cross court that was just otherworldly. And I feel like he always thinks I can always mount a run, which is part of his secret sauce. And I love that about him. But he never fully understood because he had a couple inside out winners. Kid hit a couple big forehands. He kind of thought, I get the ball I want when I want it. I still feel like that was actually a match that was blown by Carlos. He didn't get to task about mastering that pattern. Can my backhand out hit yours? He's done this against Novak. He did it in the 2025 Wimby. Was it 2025 or 2024? It might have been 2024. When he went back, he went forehand, big body, backhand wide, backhand body, backhand wide, then forehand. He just kept kind of taking the nick of the triangle and then got the ball you wanted with the forehand. He kept going cross with Medi, and Medi's just played that backhand so strong to the corner that now you got Carlos trying to slice his way out of it and hoping that Medi would take the bait. Medi went forehand back line every single time. And I just feel like that's something that Carlos will have to get better as he starts to play certain players. He's got to start playing people a bit better tactically, not just freewheeling, so to speak, with guys that have known weapons. We talked about Jannik with Zverev. You know Zverev wants his backhand. And so he gave him a healthy dose of forehands. And yeah, you'll take that occasional winner off the forehand, but you know he won't do it consistently. And that's the same thing with Medi, with Carlos. Buddy, beat me with your backhand. And don't beat me with the top spin ball that sits in your strike zone, because Carlos is a very good backhand. You're not number in the world, don't have a good backhand. But he was saying, you're not going to hit that ball down the line on me when it's below your socks. And I think that's the difference with the trajectory of Medvedev's ball. And I feel like Carlos did not understand to take that ball more body, nor did he understand enough, did he take him serious enough on the serve to be able, I thought Medi served his butt off the whole tournament. But in particular, those last two matches, he just, and he's 6'5", Albert. It's not like he's a small guy. He might be 6'6". He just,
6'6", yeah.
he might be cranking. So, and Carlos is all of what, 6 maybe? So, I mean,
6
you
foot,
got a
yeah.
guy that's literally 6 inches taller with a lot more limb, a lot more leverage. So I just feel like Carlos, in my opinion, slept on Medi a little bit, thinking that he was going to kind of fall off or maybe go back to the forehand and give him some chances, or he'd be fast and run around it. Never happened. And I feel that's why the match is so lopsided.
And then, like, there's also the whole, like, they played one time last year, and it was here at Indian Wells, right? And
Sure.
Carlos handled him. I think it was 3-6, something like
However
that.
you tweak it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
up to that point, right? No, sorry, pardon. Yes, up to that point. Um, is that right? Maybe I don't have that right. I might not have that right. Doesn't really matter. But Daniil, Daniil, I think brought a little wrinkle in today's match that Carlos didn't adjust well to completely in real time, right?
Yeah.
So you start to look at, like, going back, I mean, prior to today, Carlos has been no, sorry, last time they played was actually Beijing, 2024. So prior to today, though, Carlos had the better of that matchup. I think he won the last four in a row.
Yeah.
So to your point about him not taking him seriously, maybe he just didn't take him seriously, like, seriously enough to.
It looked like that, and I can't remember the last time that they played. I just remember the last couple Australians that he ran into Medi's ran into Bernardine. That's what I keep. That's the image that's burned into my brain. But I say it to tell you, I remember it's almost like he didn't realize he was caught in quicksand until he was up to his neck. You know what I mean? And that was the look that I saw and kind of felt. But and that's taking nothing away from Medvedev. Medi came in with a good game plan. Carlos didn't counter it. Carlos he never in that match took it serious enough to change it up so significantly enough to say, I'm going to get you out of this pattern. You've hurt me enough with it. I think there's a little bit of the Alcaraz feels like he's impervious sometimes, which is great to feel that way. 7 Grand Slams and all the accolades he's got don't do that to you. But he just didn't realize that that tactic hurts him. And at the end of the day, he has to find a way to hurt these bigger backhand types, or he's going to find himself on the losing end of that matchup, whoever that player is. And I feel like he's in a really good spot, but you can't ever feel like you've got things just handled. You know, you've got to constantly keep working on your game and keep feeling like, I think the loss actually will help him in the future Grand Slam season, the rest of the Grand Slams in the season, because I think that match kind of, I hope anyway, it kind of got to him a little bit to say, man, what did I not? I thought I owned that guy, which is easy to think that. And how was he able to just dismantle me? I never handled the backhand matchup well, not one time. There was a few winners, a few errant forehand backhands that went to the middle of the court, but he never out hit him on the backhand side. I bet if we did Swing Vision or whatever the other, play site, I bet if you said, show me all backhand to backhand matchups that went more than 3 balls. Let's just say there were 25 rallies like that. I bet he won 22 to 25. I would, if I had to guess, where Alcaraz did not get a forehand at the end. I bet it was 20 out of 25 at least.
Yeah, and not even just the forehand, not even the backhand part. That's like I wrote that down even from today's match, Medi versus Sinner.
Right.
Medi's directional discipline
Right.
is off the charts, and you could tell that he's not going to hit a ball where he should not hit a ball. Directionals, for anyone who is curious, is like every ball landing on your side of the court has a place where it wants to go, that it needs to be hit. That is, the most efficient way to hit the ball back. So if someone hits a ball,
And to cover. Right.
yeah, and for you to cover, again, back to managing your time, right? Ball comes from deuce corner to your deuce corner. The best bet is for you to hit that ball outside directional right back to where it came from, right? You don't go line until the ball's in the middle third,
Right.
yada yada yada. You change directions. You want to go back cross court. It's never playing against what your body is naturally wanting to do based upon where you are on the court. Medi Rafa also, like, when you understand directionals well, you start to see why the Federer Nadal matchup became so simple. It's
100%.
simple for Rafa, also
Right.
quite simple for Fed, but in the
Only the
inverse
way.
way.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Heavy forehand's gonna keep going to the backhand until that thing just
Right.
leaves one sitting, and then now you're in the lefty trap, right?
Yep.
The other thing that Medi did the other thing that Carlos did that was a little peculiar in that match was in the one game that he did break Medvedev, he
Mhm.
started backing up on the
Mhm.
return to serve
Mhm.
significantly. Like, I think
Yep.
they had the measuring tape out there, the digital
Right.
measuring tape,
Right. Right. He was
and
beyond the Indian
it
Wells.
it ends at 18 feet, and he's
Right.
past it. He's back there,
Yep.
and in that game, that's the game he broke. But then he never did it again.
Thought he was too good to
Stubborn.
he could do it his own way. And I and ironically, my segue back to the match today, Medi never moved in enough to take away the out wide serve from Jannik, and he burned him on it. I don't know how many times. It's just funny how pros, as good as they are, sometimes they just there's those same things that make them great. It's the
Right.
thing that can make them vulnerable because they didn't change. How many times did you hear Johansson say, "Up just a little more to the right, cover that out
Up,
wide serve"?
up.
And he's
Make him hit a different one.
I'm like, exactly. I'm like, move up, bro. Take away the darn outline. So anyway, but that's good tennis though. And hey, great tournament for Medi. Made himself relevant for the top end of the game. He's always relevant. He's Grand Slam champion, future Hall of Famer, but made himself relevant in this tournament for the top five. And I felt for a guy that here's 2026, Medi's got a couple of kids now and married, and he's closer on to retirement than he is getting started, right? And so I feel like but for these kind of matches and these kind of wins, it makes you remember how good he still is. And I know, I've always been a big fan of Daniil, and I was very happy for him. And as far as the tournament he had, I'm kind of indirectly happy for Carlos because this will kind of get him to kind of wake up a little more tactically to things that he needs to do more of. The variety that he prides himself on, he needs to really double down on that and know when to do it more often. He did that against Novak. And I think Daniil is just a flatter hitting, just as good of a backhand, type of player, less variety version of Novak, and that's how he beat Novak in that final was variety, backing up, going heavy. So those are things where, and now I gotta say it. If Juan Carlos was in the box, I had to say it out.
No, no,
He would have
how
made
dare you?
the adjustment. Just saying.
I don't
Saying
know
it,
about that
saying it.
because I don't know about that. I don't know. He
Push back
just
all you want. Just saying.
that's his
He
first
would have
loss.
known to do it. He would have known to do it. I think his own stubbornness cost him the match. Put that to the side. You can push back on it all you want. Heck of a tournament for Jannik Sinner. Great tournament for Medi. I am looking forward to Miami now as a result. I heard Novak pulled out, unfortunately, with some injuries to the shoulder. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this can back up. It's this tournament. Indian Wells to me is always kind of a weird mixed bag because you get guys that are dinged up. You got guys that makes like last year when Jack won it. Heck of a tournament for him. It came out of nowhere, in my opinion. Kind of won that tournament, and then of course he wasn't really the same the rest of the year with his old shoulder injury. And I feel like this tournament here had so many different upsides for so many different players. I thought Arthur Feast played great and had a good win over my Canadian
Felix. Yep.
Felix. Thank you. I felt like Medi came out of nowhere. I felt like Yao had a great match. against Sinner. I feel like there were so many good highlights and good things to take from this tournament into the next that it's going to really bring some neat things into Miami, and I just can't wait for Miami because all that all that potential energy kind of wrapped up in Indian Wells is now only going to transfer over to the Miami Open. So I'm really looking forward to the back end of the Sunshine Double because all that pent up potential it's got to go somewhere. And now again it's going to be a heck of a year for the tour this year.
I think that's a really good point you make about how good of an event this was. I think on both men's
Man,
and women's side, maybe save for, I don't know, maybe Andreeva, maybe even Iga.
yeah,
Hell, Coco. Jesus. Okay, so
yeah,
the men's side. Let's just stick with the men's side.
yeah,
I think a lot of players, only one player can win the event,
yeah.
but I think a lot of people come out of this extremely
All the better
happy
for
about. Yeah, Carlos has had a great start to the year, right? He won a Grand Slam, won the next 500, got
yeah.
to the semifinal here, lost to a player who was playing fantastic and who was a former world #1 and Grand Slam champion. Okay, that's a fine loss to take.
Sure, not a bad loss.
It's not David Goffin 2025 Miami Open, right? And whatever, Carlos is fine.
Oh,
Jannik, there were a few people chirping about Jannik hasn't had the best, last 2 months. And okay, it's good to put the
he's
naysayers
over.
down. Like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine.
He's
Great.
over.
Jack had a great. I mean, Jack's hitting that 10 match threshold now, and he looks like a good version of himself. I'm happy to have him back. Arthur, you mentioned, obviously Daniil. We leave one coast, we head to the other. Things are good.
Yeah.
Things are good. Things are good for me because I'm gonna be in Miami, and
Oh,
I'm
there you
really
go.
excited about it. I'm really excited about
Yeah.
it. It's gonna be good. I'll let the viewers know what day I'm gonna be there as we get a little bit closer. But if you want to come say hi, that's great. But yeah, I'm excited. Let's do one more hardcore event before we switch over to the clay. I think I wanted to talk a little bit about Daniil's left hand on his backhand on the throw to the racket,
Yeah.
but not today. I think we're gonna stop. We're gonna put a pin in it there.
That's not the way you draw it up. But boy, is it effective.
That's just Daniil Medvedev in general. It's not the
His
way you
take
draw it
back,
up.
the Paisley take back, Alvin, it goes back straight, late loop, down and through with the smack. I mean, there's not much about his game that you would coach is like, and it is so effective. It is stupidly effective because of how clean of a ball he hits. They said his rackets are 360, 365, 1820. No shape, all hit. I mean, think about that. 365, 325 is a heavy racket. 330, buddy. I think Murray had his back in the day at like 415 or 420 or something.
Jesus.
Just a club. You know what I mean? And can you imagine 365 with an 1820 with a Technofiber? Oh,
It's a baseball bat. It's just a baseball bat.
that's just with strings around it.
We don't do spin here, guys. We don't do spin.
Can you make a string that's just flat? Can you make one string and just give me a sheet and let me hit through the ball?
Oh my goodness. I think that's where we put a pin on it. I'm Alvin. That's Torrey. Best of 3. We are out.
Peace.